Let's go. 30 likes already. We haven't even started yet. Buggity fucking buggity. Let's go racing, boys. Out there, we're late. We're late. Technical difficulties. Ooh. Good evening, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to another episode of High Top Sports. Today, we are in the studio live with, of course, standing at 6'9", 285 pounds, Mr. Swolderquist, ladies and gentlemen. Yes, look at the flex on him, big dog. And special guest of the evening, Mr. Hollywood. Oh, no, where'd he go? Where'd he go? Connor Clark, what's up, baby?
What's going on, guys?
What's going on, big dog? We had technical difficulties. He got the boot. We had to bring him back in. Mr. Connor Clark is joining the show this afternoon. We have a jam-packed show for you guys. Steven Chad will be on a little bit later on to give you all things FSU and ACC. A lot of drama for them over the past few days here. Exciting stuff. He's been excited. He hasn't showed up since he got here, but good for him. We're going to talk about, obviously, football's back here. Boys, we're busting uglies. Good stuff. We're going to get some inside scoop from the Swolder. Connor's thoughts and takes on Mertz, what's going on with him. His takes on Grill, the Ville, some recruiting talk. It's going to be a good one. Before we get into any of that, all right, a lot of noise has been chirping around, okay? People are starting to change their narrative a little bit, their opinion on old Billy and the boys. And I'm thinking, like, what could it be? What's the reason for the new, little optimism for the Florida Gators? Could it be because Armstrong was rocking the old Gator? That wasn't it. I thought it was, but that wasn't it either. Could have been because Jeremiah Smith had another visit to Florida. It wasn't that either. Okay? Here's what it was, boys. This is where the swagger's starting to check back in here. Y'all notice something here? Okay? You see what I'm wearing? I've been rocking the cutoff hoodie for about a minute. I'm not saying that Billy watches the show, okay? But there's a lot of coincidences of Billy and us being on the same page here. Also, what I noticed, you know who also rocks a cutoff hoodie? Steve? Steve, you're not even here. Go ahead, Steve. I'll unmute you so you can tell him.
Is that Bill Belichick?
It is. So What we're doing this season, boys, Billy Ballsack has upgraded, okay? He is upgraded. He's no longer Billy, okay? He is Bill Napier. Napier. Okay? Buddy's dialed in. We even put some merch out there if you guys want to get your own hoodie of Billy Napier. I'm fired up. Buddy's rocking the cutoff hoodie, which means he means absolute business. He threw every single hoodie away that he had away, and he means straight business. Connor, can you confirm nor deny that he means straight business? There you go.
Yeah, certainly. He definitely means business.
What?
He's very serious about everything he does, and obviously the cutoff hoodie is part of that.
I love it. Good stuff, man. Well, look, man, let's dive right into it. Let's talk about first order of business. Obviously, a lot's been going on. Camps, Jeremiah Smith, Grill the Ville. Let's talk about Grill the Ville really quick, man. What were your takeaways from it? I know we talked, you and I, at Friday Night Lights, how things changed for Friday Night Lights. How have things changed for Grill and the Ville, and where do you see it going in the future for them?
Yeah, so pretty much we like you said, we kind of discussed this at Friday Night Lights, and I think the camps and the way that things are going nowadays are going to be far more like the Grill in the Ville style stuff. You're not really going to get these kids that are going into their senior seasons to camp essentially 2 weeks before they start fall camp towards the end of July. So the Grill in the Ville, the more laid back style events, just hanging out, building relationships with coaches, being able to interact with other recruits instead of lacing up cleats and competing, is more where it's going and where it's pretty much already gone, to be honest with you. But it went really well. It was, I think, 16 or 17 of the 21 commits were on campus. Not a huge following as far as the did, because obviously, Miami had their thing going on.
Sure.
Florida State had theirs. Georgia had their barbecue. So a lot of competition across the country about getting people on campus just before fall camp starts. But Florida did a good job of getting a couple of high-profile prospects on campus and did a good job of making some headway with it.
Now, it seemed, again, like kind of put in the takeaways that we had up just a few moments ago, that brotherhood, wrong one. That brotherhood was a big takeaway for the Gators this time, where it felt like, look, this was about locking in. And even though these guys have committed, they haven't signed a dotted line yet. And that's always a thing that's been a big concern. If you look at the comments, it's like, I'm not paying attention to the dotted line signed. I feel like this was an imaginary signature in a way, right? For a lot of these guys. A lot of them were already, 1,000% committed. And I feel like this was, if there was anybody that was on the fence, was really kind of just bringing that home and locking those guys in. And I feel even much more comfortable with the class. Always go awry, right? Bad things could happen. But this feels more comfortable than it has in the past, and that they're really building a healthy class and guys that are bought into the system. Is that true?
Yeah, I mean, you've got a group of guys, and I keep hearing seeing all the fans of opposing teams like, oh yeah, once the games get played, these guys won't be committed to Florida. They think Florida's going to have a 4-8 season, what have you. Granted, I don't think Florida is anywhere near that bad this year. I think they're probably more on the track of like a 7-5, 6-6, 8-4, depending on how things go and how quarterback play and offensive line play really, I think, dictates all of that. But you're talking about a bunch of kids that are committing to a team that just went 6-7, a team that isn't expected to be a world beater in 2023 year, and they're locked into being the people that bring Florida back to where they are. So that was the biggest selling point, I think, for this class, to get all these kids on board early. And then now, like you said, it's just about relationship building. These guys are all committed. Florida only has room probably for about 4 or 5 more spots in this class. So they're going to start cherry picking the guys that they really, really want in this class that are not already committed, and allow these 21 players that are committed now to just build that camaraderie, build that relationship, build that brotherhood over the course of the next, 6 months before half of them arrive on campus in January.
Sure, and that's the thing I spoke about too, is the people, the guys that will be joining in January. I'd expect this class to be heavy to enroll on in January. Dave, your thoughts on that, Bubba?
I can hardly hear anything because everything's lagging. So,
okay, I'm not quite sure. I don't know what's going on. I don't know why we're having such a hard time tonight. I don't know. Well, look, we can move on from the grill. Let's talk about recruiting a little bit, Connor. Obviously, not as big of a weekend as last year, like it was, but we did have some big time names come through. And Jeremiah Smith, that has been all the noise that has came out of honestly this weekend, especially being on Monday. I talked on Monday, I think it was, or Sunday. I can't remember when we had this show. I think it was Sunday, where it felt like it was a business meeting, right? I'm excited. He wants to be a part of this. It feels like he wants to stay in Florida, but Ohio State and Heartline offer a hell of an opportunity to go to that next level. But for the fact that it keeps coming back to FSU and Florida, it says, like, look, I want to stay close to home. We just got to give me a reason to stay. Does that seem to kind of be the pulse of what's going on with Jeremiah Smith?
Yeah, I'll say one thing. Jeremiah Smith is elite at the recruiting process. He is as good as you find at giving you headlines that you want to write about. Obviously, I'm sure you saw on the timeline where he called Mike Norvell the best head coach in college football, which I thought was an interesting quote. But yeah, he's not been shy about keeping his options open. Like you said, Ohio State gives him the opportunity to be that next first-round draft pick that they seem to produce every year. And Brian Hartline's got as good a track record as anybody in college football at getting guys to the next level. But Florida and Florida State are certain stuff to think about. Do I think anybody is imminently going to flip him? No, not necessarily. I think he's comfortable at Ohio State. I think he knows that he's going to be developed there and has the opportunity to be the next first-round pick from Ohio State. But he's not closing the door on programs like Florida and Florida State, and both of those programs are doing a good job of making him feel like a priority. And
what do you think he needs to see this season? What would really kind of flip the switch for Jeremiah Smith? Because that's also been the talk too. It's like, look, I love what I've seen thus far, but I need to see more of it on the field. I need to see where you're headed. Now, I think with DJ Lagway, will we get the full package? I don't know. I've got some thoughts on that when we get into the Graham Mertz part of things, because Shane Matthews spoke to what he thinks the offense is going to be ran like, which is a phenomenal take, which he was kind of hinting that he thinks this is going to be more passing than what we're all implying, right? It's not going to be this kind of just the run in up your throat mentality. Is that a takeaway as well, that Smith is going to be focused, again, what the production on the field is for Florida this year?
Yeah, of course. And anybody that tells you winning doesn't matter is lying to you. Now, granted, I don't think it's as big of a factor as it used to be, especially with NIL coming into play with a lot of these kids. But winning is certainly going to be a factor. If Florida, for some reason, just the wheels fall off on the season, they go 4-8. Jeremiah Smith's not going to come to a 4-8 team. He wants to be able to play on the biggest platforms, and that itself, one, is the SEC. But second off, it's going to be an opportunity in his 3 years at whatever school he chooses to attend, is the opportunity to play in the college football playoff. And if he sees Florida building in that direction after going 6-7 last season, maybe they jump to 7-5 with an opportunity to go 8-5 in a bowl game this year. That is a positive trend. Eventually lead to Florida getting to the college football playoff with players like Xavier Filsaime, DJ Lagway, Jeremiah Smith coming in to kind of put them over the top. So yes, winning and all of that is very important, and he will be watching that this season from both in-state programs.
Oh, Dave?
Yeah, Jeremiah Smith, he's one of those guys. You're not going to wow him over with an NIL deal. I mean, he's been very vocal about, obviously lame, and he's actually even said it twice where he said, look, I'm going to see how Florida season's going to go, and that'll maybe, I'm not even going to say it's going to sway his mind, but he's more interested to look to see what the season's going to lay out for the University of Florida. Of course, he's got that relationship with DJ Lagway. You always want to keep on keeping in contact with him and kind of chip away at that, because you never know. I mean, you never know by the end of the season if Heartline takes a job somewhere or something else changes down the road. You always want to keep that relationship open, and you want to keep that mind going for Jeremiah Smith, especially, like I said, if something happens. So, I mean, Jeremiah Smith is going to be one of those guys that I think it's just going to come right down to the nitty-gritty, National Signing Day or whatever. But right now, I would still pick Ohio State to land his services unless something changes.
Absolutely. Look, I think it's obviously the excitement's always there when we get a visit. It's just at least there's an opportunity to keep picking at his ear, keep talking to him, keep recruiting him. So thankful for the opportunity that we're even able to even keep, picking at his ear. But we're kind of at a weird part than we were last year. And we talked about this, you and I, you were on the show before Jubilee weekend, and you talked about look, don't necessarily get too worked up if we don't get everybody. And you've even tweeted out that we've landed I think 8 of the 10 visits from the second weekend. The weekend's paid off is essentially what you were getting at. And you called, I think it was 5 or 6 more commits. I think it was even bigger than what you ended up predicting it to be at. But you and I both agreed that, look, we expect to be further along this year, which we are. Which now leaves us, well, what's left? Where do we go from here? Where are your biggest targets for you, and where do you think we close this class at? Because that's always been a big question. Do we go for 25? Is it 26, 27? Where do you think it ends for us?
Yeah, so I think all things in a perfect world, you're looking at probably a 26 to 28 person class. Now, that's if you get everybody you want, including guys like Jeremiah Smith, all that good stuff. Now, granted, that's not going to happen. Football is not a perfect world. Recruiting is not a perfect world. They're not going to land everybody that they want at the top of their board. I think you're probably looking at a class closer to 24 to 25 prospects. You're sitting at 21 right now. So you're only talking about 3, 4, maybe 5 more guys. The guys that I think that they're going to prioritize and should prioritize, it's going to be another offensive tackle. I think Jordan Seaton is somebody that's really in play for Florida. I think it's between him and Alabama right now. He's at IMG Academy, so I expect him to show up to a few games in the fall. That's somebody that I think they will work really hard to try and get, somebody I really like. They could go for another running back if they really wanted to go for 2 running backs in this class. They're not going to stop recruiting Jarrett Gibson just because he committed to Texas. And there are some rumors floating around that he could be moving back to Gainesville for his senior year of high school football. So if that happens, don't be surprised if he shows up on campus for a few games. Florida has and will continue to be his dream school and his school that he loved growing up. If he does happen to move back home, Florida should have a really good shot all the way till the very end there.
Let me
And then, of
interrupt
course,
before you go. Hold on,
yeah, go
let
ahead.
me go real quick because Jarrett Gibson's an interesting one. He's been back and forth. When we had you on before, it was silent with Jarrett Gibson, right? And it felt like that relationship had died. At the time, we had Chauncey Bowens, right? So we were at a 2 running back standstill. It felt like we were good in that position. Obviously, with Bowens leaving, do you feel that had a reason in the re-engagement with Jarrett, or was that engagement always there? It just maybe if it was a little bit quieter than what it is now due to the lack of Chauncey leaving.
Yeah, so they always continue to recruit Jarrett Gibson. He's one of the top running backs in the country. Like I said, a Gainesville kid. So you're never going to stop recruiting a kid because you never know what can happen in the recruiting game. But since Chauncey left, Florida did want to take 2 running backs in this class. So maybe they've turned up the heat a little bit. And we've kind of all known, just general public, that Texas was the school to beat for Jarrett Gibson for probably the last year or so.
Okay.
They've really done a great job recruiting running backs. They went and got Cedric Baxter from the Orlando area last year. They got Jarrett Gibson this year in the class. They recruit running backs really well. And then, of course, NIL plays a factor in how well they do in their recruiting process because they've got a really strong NIL program. Now, with Chauncey moving on to Georgia, Florida having a guy that they really, really like in Kanan Daniels, the thought process was they would stick with just Kanan Daniels, maybe go to the portal for a second running back. That thought process is still kind of on that track, but if they can go get somebody like a Jarrett Gibson late in the process, they're not going to say no to somebody like Jarrett Gibson as opposed to going to maybe a portal guy in this class.
Awesome. And Chris says $10 super chat. He goes, will Florida pay Gibson like Texas? So that NIL offership, do you think Florida
The answer to that question is no.
Okay. Hollywood don't play no games, boys. Yeah. Who were the other guys you were going to mention before?
No. I mean, I'm not going to lie to you guys about that. Texas has very lucrative NIL deals. Obviously, you've seen just from a bare minimum. What was it? 2 years ago, they gave every offensive line signee in their class like $50,000 just off rip for going to Texas. And then that's not to mention all of the deals that they can get set up for these guys once they're on campus with what certain organizations and stuff like that are associated. And of course, for somebody like a Jarrett Gibson, a Cedric Baxter, a Jeremiah Smith, those numbers are going to be much, much higher.
Sure. Who else did you have on the plate before I interrupted you there?
Oh, no, you're good. So as far as wide receiver goes, they've got their 3 wide receivers committed right now. They're happy at that 3 number. And really I think the only people that they're really going to go after big game hunting would be guys like Jeremiah Smith, maybe continue to recruit somebody like a TJ Moore who's committed to Clemson all the way up until the very end because he's a Tampa kid. But other than that, just really they're set with their 3 wide receivers that they have right now that they love, but they'll continue to go big game hunting for some of the bigger names. And as far as other positions, the positions that really need to be addressed still before the end of the cycle would certainly be cornerback. A guy like Wardell Mack, who was on campus for the Grill in the Ville event. That's somebody that I know Florida has high on their board now. Xavier Mincy from Mainland is somebody that's very high on Florida's board as well. I expect them to continue to recruit him and try to land both of those guys. And they'll continue to recruit Jameer Grimsley, who's committed to Alabama as well, who is also a Tampa area kid. They will not give up recruiting him and try to get him on campus over the fall for a couple games. And then just moving over, really the last guys would be LJ McCray on the defensive line, another Mainland kid that Florida really has high on the board. I think it's really between Florida and Georgia right now for him. And then, of course, they're continuing to recruit a couple of other guys like a Dalen Evans who's committed to Texas A&M, who everybody thought was going to flip to Florida when the summer started and nothing really materialized. They might try to get him back on campus for a visit this.
Good stuff. Dave, you want to talk about that a little bit?
Wardell Mack, obviously he visited, excuse me, can you hear me?
Yeah.
My internet, it's cut me out. Wardell Mack, he visited there, Florida this past weekend. Heard really good news about that as well. We'll just see where that goes. And of course, Xavier Mincy, he took a visit to Miami this weekend instead of going to the Grill at the Ville. As Connor said, I still feel really strong about Xavier Mincy, even though he did take that visit to Miami. And as far as Grimsley goes, obviously Alabama commit, try to flip the guy. I mean, Florida came on him late, a little bit later than what they should have, I guess. But he commits to Alabama. They're still gonna try to go after him as well. As Connor said, they're going to add another cornerback to this class. And as far as running back, and y'all talking about Gibson and all that. I mean, this kid loved Florida. I mean, I remember, I think a year or two ago when Dan Mullen was our coach, he followed me on Twitter and he followed a bunch of other people. So he's loved Florida this whole time. And, Texas with their lucrative, like you said, lucrative NIL deals. An NIL deal can convince a kid to go to another said school. This is the day and age of NIL. But if he does move back to Gainesville, that puts us back in the boat for him a little bit there. Texas, they tend to overpay for running backs. It seems that way when you look at it. So, and then of course you have Jamari Howard. I mean, he visits FSU. This was a kid that we thought once he decommitted from Michigan State, he was a pretty good Florida lean. It looked like he was, he was going to commit to Florida. And then he was supposed to visit on the first round of visits that we had in July, never visited. Then said he was going to come to the grill at the Ville. Then at the last minute does not visit there. So I think that ship has sailed, if you were to ask me. So I think really the targets you're going to look for here is like Wardell Mack, Xavier Mincy, LJ McCray. He did visit Georgia, but he did visit Florida beforehand, before he went to Georgia. I think those are the targets you really got to look out for. I would scratch Jamari Howard out if I was anybody. But you look at those, and then you got one that's really quiet right now. Seaton, the offensive lineman there at IMG Academy, is a top 50 prospect there. His names came up. You've heard rumblings. You've heard a little bit of whispers. You haven't really heard anything, though. But he's one of those names to kind of look out for there towards the end. I'm sure he's going to take his visits during the football season. But I would look out for Seaton, maybe long-term more than short-term. But as far as that goes, man, I would say that those are the names to kind of look out for. And especially, we don't know if Grimsley's going to flip or not from Alabama, but I would just keep my eyes out.
Yeah, I love the Grimsley talk because obviously we were on his final three, I think, when he committed to Alabama. I never felt like Florida was in it, but I keep just seeing a bunch of articles with his name popping up on it. It's like, look, I love the fact that we're still constantly pursuing that, which tells us that, hey, we feel confident enough to keep having that conversation, which I love to see. The same thing with Jeremiah Smith. Love that we're still confident enough to have that conversation. Yeah, Jamari Howard, I got Steve here sitting next to me. He'll be on a little bit. He's been flexing the entire 20 minutes. He's been talking about Jamari Howard because, they feel pretty confident about him going to FSU. It is what it is. But look, that seems like we've missed out on that. And when he did decommit from Michigan State, we said right off the rip, it's a Florida State battle. It's a Florida kid. That's where it's going to happen. But Florida did have the lead for a little bit, but obviously that lead has drifted away. But look, I think it seems like it's not as exciting, but the names that are left on the board, and we've talked about this time and time again, if we're able to land 3 or 4 of those guys that you all just mentioned, the both of you just mentioned, that puts us either right around above or right on that 293 overall class, which is, a record-breaking class over the last decade for the Florida Gators. And for Bill to do that in his, second full recruiting cycle is absolutely huge and massive. So with that, make sure you guys drop a like because we had over 400 people in here just a minute ago. So let's get us over 100 likes, show some love, and subscribe if you are new here.
Yeah,
go ahead.
Let me add to that too. Florida's already past the target for the past decade for having the highest recruiting class. Now, if you reach 291 or higher, that'll be 2013, the Will Muschamp class. So right now, Florida's already sitting pretty. They've already made kind of recruiting history in their own minds as a school,
Sure.
for having the highest recruiting class for the decade. But now you can go even more further than that if you hit 290, 291.
There we go. I love it. Thank you for clarifying that.
Yes, sir.
You're muted, Connor.
Love that you guys brought that up. Yeah, I realized that like halfway through my statement. But no, I love that you guys brought that up because I was actually doing some of the math and digging today. Florida currently sits at 277.98 in the 247 composite ranking, dating back to Florida's number 1 class in 2010. No class has ever finished outside the top 10 with that ranking alone. So Florida is all but guaranteed to finish. If they don't add anybody else, is all but guaranteed to finish in the top 10 in recruiting.
Solid.
Now, I did a little bit of a mock class with myself today, adding 4 names that we discussed. I won't specify which 4, but added 4 names that got Florida up to 296.23. Now, 296.23 would be the highest rated Florida class since that number 1 class back in 2010. And with that ranking of 296.23, no class has ever finished lower than 5th nationally at that point total, and 8 times since 2010 they finished in the top 3 nationally.
I don't think we need to say
Boom.
anything. I think we just let them Hollywood, baby, is what they call them, and now you know why. Hollywood. I love it. All right, good stuff there. Let's move on. Fall camp has started, and hashtag Year of the Visor, boys. It feels good to be back. I don't know about you, but I am fired up to just see some football, to have something else to talk about. I mean, we made it. You know what I'm saying? Like we made it. We made it through the dry months, and now it's here to showtime. So I'm going to go over to Mr. Swoderquist here to talk about all good things fall camp, baby.
Yeah, man, these are all kind of word of mouth notes from some of the guys that have been out there and saw some of the practices. Some of them, they're on the Florida Victorious board. So if you have not joined Florida Victorious as a member, you can join today and save 20% on your membership, your first month's membership, with promo code HIGHTOP. So just remember that. So if you do join, the Florida Victorious board, you can get some of these notes. And the fall camp notes so far that we have gotten, I said, Mertz looked good, had one throw that may have been a little off, or somebody may have ran a route too late. And according to this, one of those was an interception, but I don't know, because a lot of people were telling me it was a different quarterback. I've also heard a lot of freshmen have looked good. Obviously, we've heard Dejon Johnson with the 2 pick sixes, but that was out on Twitter. Aiden Mazel's also looked very good, very quick, very explosive out there. Curious to see how they use him this year, if they try to save a red shirt or just use him for 4 games, or actually put him out there on the field the whole year. Billy Napier did say a lot of young kids would be playing this year. Najee Harris has looked really good so far at guard. I believe Austin Armstrong gave him a little bit of a praise too in the presser. Eugene Wilson's has been non-contact jersey, just running small routes and camps, just hamstring, on his, I don't know what they wear on their, I think it's just like a little brace that he has on right now, but he's been running against air, mostly, not really in tackling situations or anything. And Andy Jean, I guess we've all seen the video of him kind of juking Kamari Wilson there. He's been very, very impressive early on. And that is about it. You got guys that are still limited, like Chakao Bowman, Eugene Wilson. Obviously, I just mentioned him, Brian Green Jr., Micah Mazuka, still recovering a little bit from his injury, but they said he should be available week 1. So I wouldn't be too concerned with that. And people absent from practice: Lindell Hudson, Cameron Waits, Caden Jones were absent from practice. These are kind of the notes that Zach Goodall left on SI too. So I got to give him a little bit of a shout out there as well. And I think Connor has some more info for us there on the practices there too. Do you?
Yeah, I mean, not too terribly much. Unfortunately, our guys over at SI only get their 15-minute viewing portion during practices, so what they see is a lot of fluff, a lot of stuff that the coaches want them to see. Obviously, you're kind of getting that vibe that even though Billy hasn't named a starter, that Graham Mertz is going to be the guy moving forward. When you talk to the players and Bill, I'm sorry. When you hear the players talk in the press conferences, they pretty much have already accepted Graham Mertz as their guy. Jaden Hill's press conference, Montrell Johnson's press conference, both talked about his leadership and his ability to command the team and command the offense. So that's big time stuff that you have to have as a starter. And then I think the biggest takeaway for me from what I've seen over the course of the last few practices was Austin Armstrong's coaching press conference. You're always going to get a lot of words that don't give you a whole lot of context from Bill. He's very good at saying a lot, but revealing a little. So, but Austin Armstrong, I think, was probably my favorite press conference or favorite interview to watch and follow, because one, you can see the emotion and the energy that this guy exudes on a daily basis with these guys, and just the confidence that he has in himself at such a young age as a play caller, the confidence that he has in his guys over the course of just meeting and learning these guys from spring ball to now. And he's just been, I think, a breath of fresh air for the defense, a breath of fresh air for the coaching staff. and somebody that I think is going to really have a big impact on Florida this fall.
Yeah, I mean, obviously his press conferences are electric. They definitely fire you up, and like you said, Bill is very vanilla with his press conference, but he's got a little swagger about him this time than he usually does, which I've been enjoying lately. And
Yeah. If you go to, like, if you watch some of the stuff at the SEC media days, he was even saying that, like, I think there's going to be some surprises that nobody, like, knows about, and he's kind of smiling when he says it. And I mean, you hear it from a lot of the players. I mean, like, every player that's had a presser so far, they've all said more togetherness, more buy-in, guys playing more aggressive, Armstrong having more energy, more chemistry, renewed accountability with the team. I mean, it's very different from last year because, and it's not to insult any of the former Dan Mullen guys. I mean, you have a head coach that gets you used to a habit. It's hard to break that habit. So those kids that had those habits are gone. You got new transfers in, new blood in. So it's a little bit different now, and I kind of like it.
yeah, I think, and I'm a victim of this too. We've got to quit worrying about hurting the other person's feelings because I do this a lot too. I would hope the same thing happens next year, right? That we're talking positive. It's never a shot. It's just, look, things are moving in the right direction. They're closer. Things are clicking more. It's never intended to be a shot. And I get what you're saying. You're saying it because it's happened before. We make a comment and everyone's like, oh, well, what are you saying? I'm just saying shit's better. It's not because, it could be because of those people. And if you feel that it's because you've left or because of those people, that's your insecurities that you're reflecting on me. But that's neither here nor there. I think a lot of it is that the guys that are there now are more bought in. And I think the process that he talked about on his Sunday presser that we talked about on Sunday's show is they're rooming with one another. They have a random roommate. I don't know if you guys saw the Justin Boone interview where they asked him how's rooming with Trayon Webb. And he's like, yeah, he's got his ladies. Just completely just trash my man. Only thing I'm thinking of is Trayon heads back to the room, picks his phone up, and he just what's he mean, your ladies? You know what I'm saying? And each lady is hitting him with who's he talking about? Like, we fucking out. And support Trayon there. You know what I mean? Just not necessarily that he's got game. I'm just more concerned that you've now exposed his game. You know what I mean? But I think with Justin Boone, he's got like the veteran presence. He's going to take his shot, and I think that's what that was. But I think that's great. They're also, when they go to their cafeteria and they're eating, no phones are allowed. And in a world where that is your lifeline, to take that away, especially the kids at these age, it's huge. You're forcing people to talk. So I think, Buddy's wearing a cutoff hoodie. You could have just literally said to moved on, but you guys are much more detailed, and I appreciate that as usual. But yeah, look, good stuff. I'm excited. I mean, it's the first few days here, so I think literally, like I said, I'm just happy to have something to talk about, to be honest with you. But last little bit here, Connor, and then we'll let you go, man. Again, appreciate you always hopping on here. Tell them where they can find you before we move on to this last topic, though, so they can keep up with you, man. Because again, your tweet game is always on point.
Yeah. No. So really just social media as far as that goes, it's just Twitter, or X now, if you want to call it that. At Connor Clark with SI, with Brandon and Zach, who always do a fantastic job. Just hit 9,000 followers not too long ago. So I'm on the road to 10,000. So if any of you do not follow me, please do so. I'm trying to get to 10K before the end of the season.
And we've got 450 people in here. It's got to be because Hollywood's here. I mean, there's only one of business is Mertz Mania. The guys winning the Heisman, what Connor said before you guys all got here. Not really. I'm just kidding. I'm putting words in his mouth. But there's a ton of hype coming out from behind him. There was a clip that went around pretty. I don't know if you guys have seen it. That was getting a lot of hypeness with Shane Matthews talking to Buddy Martin. And Shane wasn't very high on Anthony last year. He had his reasons for him. We're not going to get into that. But he's very high. Very optimistic, very glass half full with Mertz. And he talked about the process and what he thinks the offense is going to be like. And here's what I will say about one of these guys. Shane Matthews, he's close. He lives in Gainesville. He's like a Judd Davis, in my opinion. Judd I talk to all the time. Judd has personal relationships and personal conversations with these coaches, just like how we're chit-chatting now. Like Judd will come by and say, yeah, he came over for dinner. That's what we talked about. That's how the conversations are. So when they tell it, and those guys don't care, like they just say how the conversation is. They really don't hold their water very well, which I love. It's the same kind of the same era. And he talked about, look, I think the offense is going to be, I have not been stating that, so I would be taken back if that is the case, because I thought for sure we're going to be doing run it down the throat. But I'd be okay with the alternative, because I think it speaks to the Jeremiah Smiths of the world, shuts up everybody saying like you guys don't have a quarterback, etc. But with just the first few days, the noise is that there's a complete 180 from the spring game.
No, I can't confirm or deny either of those statements. But
Okay.
I will say this: I was actually talking to Brandon Carroll at our website about this last night, actually, and we were talking about Mertz, and we were talking about how Anthony Richardson, of course, was just this phenomenal athlete, fantastic player. But with Anthony, you got really high highs and really low lows. And I think Mertz is going to be a much more even keeled quarterback. You're not going to get the type of quarterback that's going to go single-handedly win you a game like Anthony did against Utah. But you're also not going to get somebody that is in his first year of starting and lets one mistake snowball into a bunch of them and lose you a game like a Kentucky or a Vanderbilt. So we were talking about, well, if you have Mertz on this team last year, what is your plus minus on win total as opposed to Anthony? One, defense I think is going to be much more improved this year, so I don't think it's comparing apples to apples, but I think you're at a +1 net if you have somebody like a Graham Mertz at the quarterback last year, as opposed to someone like Anthony Richardson. And that's not a slight to Anthony. I know Anthony personally. He's a fantastic young man. He's a phenomenal athlete. And I think he's going to have a very successful NFL career. But he was having to learn on the fly because of the lack of experience that he got from Dan Mullen and not allowing him to start when he probably should have been in Dan's last year. So he was first year starting. Mertz has, as Billy Napier has said 100 times, he's got 30 plus starts. Is he going to be able to take off and go get 65, 70 yards or throw you a 70-yard bomb? Probably not. But he's going to check you into the right play, get you out of a negative play into a positive play, and I think that's a net positive.
Yeah, real quick before you go, Dave, because I know you got it. But I think that's the biggest thing that I have been preaching on, and we have to always clarify this isn't a shot towards Anthony. Anthony's a phenomenal young man. We've met, obviously, we've talked to him on the show too. And we talk about it on our Sunday show. My concern with the NFL is his lack of starts, his lack of playing time. Which what comes into play with lack of play is when you're in the middle of a game time decision. You're not callous to that particular situation. So you're more likely to make like you said, his lows are really low, a big major mistake. Where somebody like a Heisman will just throw it away, and you're like, what are you throwing it away for? Well, the alternative here, the numbers tell me that if I tried to make this happen, that it could turn into a pick six. Throw it away, let's get the punt, we'll figure it out on the next play. And he keeps referring to 30 starts under his belt because that is absolutely massive. And Mullen didn't give Anthony too much time. And don't forget, Anthony's like last half of the year, according to Mullen, he was hurt. So how many reps was he actually getting during practice if he was hurt for that last half of the semester? So he came in, essentially not a freshman, but pretty damn close to it. And that is my concern with him going to Indy. And that's kind of what I keep saying on the NFL is like, look, if the guy is an athletic freak, we see what the potential and the ceiling is unreal. Right now, Florida, Bill, he was not prepared for that talent. He needed somebody to come in and be able to just manage the game. It was almost like they didn't sync up at the right time. That's kind of what it was, in my opinion. They just not a good time. That the team was in a weird place. You put him into a Georgia system where it's already flowing. You can put somebody with that kind of rocket power speed because the rest of it will make up for the lack of. We just had too many holes to be able to pick up the pieces, and I think those things are getting fixed, like you said, with the defense. So go ahead, Dave. Sorry, buddy.
Yeah, I was just going to say, man, you talk about Anthony Richardson, and obviously, he was an explosive play machine. The only thing that he struggled with was making the simple throws. And I've heard Shane Matthews consistently say that a quarterback has to make those simple throws. That slant can't go sailing 10 feet over somebody's head. It's got to be right on the money and on the target. Of course, we know Anthony Richardson was a great athlete. He could throw the deep ball really well, but his accuracy just lacked. And like you said, it's just his first year starting. And he kind of struggled that in high school too. So, props to Anthony Richardson for being a first round draft pick and going to, the Colts and doing what he's doing right now. But I love Shane Matthews, man. Shane is one of those guys that doesn't beat around the bush. I've interviewed him twice. I've listened to the pod of Shane Matthews. I listened to it all the time. Yeah. He is very, very straightforward, doesn't beat around the bush, doesn't BS. This guy, he's had over a decade in the NFL and he's won so many awards at the University of Florida. So he knows what he's talking about. And, you hear him on his show, he's talking about like, hey, man, we're going to be a lot more pass happy. And if you go look at Graham Mertz stats, any kind of PFF stats on those short routes, on those 0 to 9 range routes, he is throwing 70%, where Anthony Richardson threw like 50 and maybe even 48 at some times in some or certain routes. You're not going to get that kind of play out of Graham Mertz. So those little easy nickel and dime first downs, you'll get that. Now, what I'm concerned with now, obviously, when he was at Wisconsin, threw a lot of interceptions. He was pressured a lot. He was sacked a lot. Does the offensive line have a lot to do with that? Yes, it does. But at the same time, you got to be able to make better decisions if you're getting pressured. If just throw it out of bounds, don't try to make the play. And I think that's something he's learned with those 30 starts. And hopefully here at the University of Florida, you get him some better weapons around him. Also with the tutelage that he learned in Wisconsin and the mistakes that he learned, you didn't really see that there. You saw, he got pressured a lot in that spring game. There was a lot of blitz packages. There was, the starting offensive linemen, a lot of them weren't playing that game either. He still threw for 244 and a touchdown. So you got to tip your hat to, the situation that he was in when he started in the spring game. And hey, I saw quarterbacks around the nation do worse in their spring game. So
Sure.
I'll tip my hat to Graham Mertz, and hopefully with these new weapons and everything, it'll be a lot better.
Do you think the last question, Connor? Do you think the wide receiver room is much improved from last? And I mean not much, but more improved than last year. And it's not a knock; it's just simply what it is.
Yeah, I think from top to bottom, it is an improved wide receiver room. I think you just infused it with a tremendous amount of talent and two guys that are for sure going to get a bunch of playing time this year in Eugene Wilson and Andy Jean, and maybe a third because Aiden Mizell can just take the top off of defense. And speaking of spring game, you saw it in the spring game where he was just running by DBs. And granted, if he's 170 pounds, I don't care. If a corner can't cover him one-on-one down the sideline, I don't care if you weigh 155 pounds. Look at what Devontae Smith did at Alabama at 168 pounds or whatever he was. Just throw it up and he's down there somewhere.
He's not tackling nobody. I need him to get past somebody. So I need him to get through and by somebody. But yeah, look, I think, and what's interesting too is even Billy spoke to the offensive line. He felt that the depth was better than it was last year. Talent-wise, I think, look, you can't knock the talent that was on an offensive lineman, but depth was an issue all around, and the depth seems to be much healthier this year as well too, and who knows how much of a factor that played to it. So, look, the schedule's tough. That's always going to be a thing, and it's only going to get tougher, but I think the direction of it, and where we kind of concluded here, is that we're all headed in the right direction. But, Connor, through the lagging and technical difficulties, we were able to get it done, man. Pleasure as always. Like I said, I genuinely enjoy you always coming on here. You're always up for it and always down for it. I hope you get to 10,000 followers ASAP. If you guys are not following him,
yeah, man, it's always.
Yeah, go follow him.
No, you're good. I apologize for cutting you off. No, it's always a pleasure to come on and talk football with you guys, man. It's something I enjoy, something I'm passionate about. So anytime you guys need me to jump on the podcast and talk Florida football, I am definitely willing.
I love it. Well, Hollywood, you be good, man. Go sign some babies for us.
Hollywood.
Go get us, big dog. Appreciate you, man.
Yes, sir. Y'all have a good night.
Yes, sir. We're going to pass it back over to our man, Mr. Solderquist, real quick, to thank our sponsors for today. And also, we got almost 400 people in here. Show some love. Drop a like. The family is growing. We are constantly moving, and we're not done yet. We've got a whole other show ahead of us. Shout out to Steve for hanging in there. And shout out to his new FSU hat. But, Dave, over to you first.
Yeah, don't mind me while I read from a cue card here. Folks, we picked up a new sponsor, Manscaped. College football's almost here, and Manscaped favorite turf with Manscaped's Platinum Package 4.0 when you use promo code HIGHTOP20 at checkout. Save 20% plus get free shipping from your misfits here at iTop Sports when you order any product or package to take care of your package at manscaped.com. That's not all, folks. Manscaped also has new beard products. That's right, the Beard Hedger, my personal favorite. It's an adjustable guard. It's also waterproof. I'm actually still waiting on that thing because it hasn't gotten here, matter of fact. But I do have a buddy that's tried it. They love it. So head on over to manscaped.com right now. Promo code HIGHTOP20. Save 20% plus get free shipping today on manscaped.com's awesome lineup of shading products.
And one last thing before we move on, it's our last little shameless plug of the evening. It's how we pay the bills and how I keep Steve looking so pretty over there. Is this? I'm actually genuinely excited about this. This is something that this is always what I wanted. The last piece that I would like.
Sorry, this guy said
What?
This guy said Trayon uses Manscaped.
The last piece of the puzzle is to be sponsored by either a distillery or a brewing company. That would be my next big, endeavor. But we're teaming up with Jarhead's Java Coffee, premium coffee. It's a military backed coffee, which I also love. That we're giving back to that. And we're gonna have 3 brands. We're trying out the fresh roast mocha right now. This is the coffee. Dave and I are actually drinking it currently. That's why we've been able to stay so jazzed up this entire time. But it's absolutely phenomenal. And we're going to have the 4 flavors, I think. Dave's going to have a flavor. There's going to be a FSU flavor, a Jaguar flavor, and then a Gator flavor. Like I said, I am beyond excited for this. All in all, it's phenomenal. Once it's up and going, obviously we'll drop the link. If you guys are big coffee guys, I think there's K-Cup versions. This is grinded, which you can still put into a K-Cup if you have like a little thing. Literally, really, really excited about it, and it's good. So not only is it a good company, supports a good cause, but it's freaking good. It's everything you ask for when teaming up with somebody, and that's our guy out there at Devil Dog. So
Devil Dog, appreciate it, man. Yeah, that was delightful. Had our first crack at that this morning. Dude, everybody that we could let get a taste of it was blown away.
What's even cooler is our work, they buy coffee. I convinced Suzanne to buy it, to supply the the company with it. So once we get all that figured out, we will be. So
awesome.
The FSU flavor is gonna taste like shit. I mean, yeah, but I mean somebody's gonna drink it. So I was gonna talk with Connor, but I think this is good to talk with.
I was gonna say that I've been drinking the Bali Blue Moon Brewing. Pretty good.
How is it?
So yeah, it's pretty good. If you haven't, I know you got that sample pack just like me. I've tried it. I like the flavor so far. So
good stuff. And gang, thank you for the likes, boys. It lets us know that we're doing a good job, and YouTube know that we're doing a good job. So keep showing the love. But Cam Rising, this is obviously going to be a conversation that we have up until August 31st, where we fly up to Utah and whoop that ass. But Cream rises to the top. The biggest thing is he going to start? He has been practicing. But my question is, does it really matter? Okay, obviously Cam Rising starting would be absolutely huge. Nobody is going to question that. But remember, their head coach has been there since 2005, I think it is, 20-plus years. He has created a machine at Utah. And the reason I preface that is I think you could he's at a point where you can plug and chug anybody. Where Cam Rising is going to help separate you is, honestly, in a game like last year. Cam Rising did everything right on that last drive to win the football game. Amari Burney just took him to Burney's weekend. That's honestly what happened. He made one mistake, and Burney capitalized on it. And that is the advantage of having Cam Rising. But I don't think if you take Cam Rising out of the equation, that game really changes too much if they have it again this year, is my point. So, look, the guy was coming off an ACL injury from the Rose Bowl. They're not going to tell you if he's playing or not playing. I got a buddy who's a big Utah guy, follows Utah to its core. And I think it was the Washington State football game. He was injured at that game, did not play in that game, which you wouldn't even realize that their quarterback came in through for 180 yards, like a 120 QBR rating, which is identical with what Cam Rising has done all year long. But the point was, as Cam came out onto the field, he practiced, he dressed up, he suited up, sold everybody that the man was going to play until the coin was flipped. So if I had to guess, the same kind of process is going to happen, and this man's going to be on that field until he's not on that field. I would be shocked if he played. Honestly, I think it would be in our favor if he did play, because coming back that quickly from an injury, you got to think there's going to be some, a little bit of just thought, right? That fear in your head. But my last little bit is like, it's not going to matter. We got to go out there and kick ass whether he's playing or not playing. I don't think he's as much of a threat. He's great. I'm not trying to discredit him. I just think that system is a phenomenal system, and we've got to beat the system, not the quarterback. Dave?
Are you going to go to Holly? But I'll go. Yeah, Utah to me, I like Cameron Rising with his injury and all that. I said, dude, that kid could be in a grave dug 6 foot under, and they're going to go dig 6 feet to open the grave up and say, hey, dude, come play football the first game of the season. That's what I said. Look, they're going to try anything that they can and do to get Cam Rising on that field. I mean, you still got Brent Keithy to worry about there at tight end. But really, honestly, man, I think and even if you go last year, you look at some of the some of the plays, and obviously it was Anthony Richardson's first start as a quarterback, and it was Billy Napier's first year as a head coach. And you saw a lot of openings, like and that big run that Anthony Richardson had. There was nobody around in sight, and I think that the worst part that I've seen about Utah is their backfield defense. And I'm not going to say that they don't have players and they can't test Florida early on, but you go back and look at that old game and you're just like, man, we should have beat the pants off of Utah, especially that first half. We were shutting them down really, really bad that first half, and probably could have really taken advantage if we had a more experienced quarterback in that game. You go to this game, obviously you've got experience on your side with Graham Mertz, even if I'm assuming they're going to have Cam Rising in this game. But you look at what happened last year and you're like, man, we should have beat them like 40-20. 45-20, just everything that I've saw in that game. And I'm not going to say that we're going to win the game because every team gets older. They get more experience. They get more mature. So it could be a shootout. It could not be a shootout. It could be low scoring like it was last year. But Cam Rising's going to play that game. You're not going to convince me that they're going to throw a backup quarterback out there against Florida week 1 at Utah and risk losing the game unless they are very, very, very confident in their backup quarterback, but I just don't see it.
Okay, so we got to vote for play. I say he doesn't play. Steve, it's over to you, big guy. Close it down.
Look, I think based on what we've seen so far and all the reports that are coming out, an ACL injury isn't what it used to be. It used to be a 1-year process before you could even feel confident getting back on the football field. The quarterback position is not the running back position. You're not asking for contact every single play. This is a situation where if they feel they can block for him, if they feel that he can operate the offense efficiently without putting himself at risk, that we'll see him start. Now, I think we'll see him start the game. We'll see how that goes.
If he starts, he plays. You can't middle ground this. It's a yes or no. Does he play?
I think what'll happen is he'll start the game. We'll see how that knee plays. We'll see how the game plays. If he's running for his life the entire time, they're going to pull that. They're going to pull him out and make sure that they can rest that knee. It really depends on what that first quarter looks like. I do believe that Cam Rising snaps on the first play. What happens after that, depending on how Florida is able to get after him, and which I would think, especially with your new defensive coordinator, that you would be aggressive.
Yeah, that was going to be my next thing. Is that going to play a factor if he does come onto the field? Does Billy give the nod to Visor saying, send the hounds?
Sweep the leg.
Yes, sweep the leg.
The
boys, we're coming for you.
Look, because if you can get after him and you can get him to where he's moving around and now he's not now he's just not confident putting his leg down to throw. I mean, they could pull him in the middle of the first quarter and just say it's not worth,
my biggest thing is that I don't think we should get too caught up in it. I think Cam Rising is a phenomenal quarterback, but I also, again, I think we're kind of sleeping on the system that has been built in Utah. I mean, they have made a living off 3 stars.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, look, they beat a USC
twice
with a Heisman winner. To take the Pac-10. Everybody thinks that USC is the king of the Pac-12, but
Florida is. Real quick, super chat from Harlan says $5. We love Holly. Thank you, Harlan. We just had almost like 450 people in here, so again, appreciate you guys I love it, man. It just lets us know that we're getting closer to football season, that we're humping on a Wednesday night, over 400 people in the chat. I mean, that just gets me absolutely razzle-dazzled, and I love it. I love a little good razzle-dazzle. You know what I mean?
All we've got is pads right now. We're weigh-ins and pads. That's all we are right now.
And like loose, like cloth jerseys. You know what I mean? Like it's good stuff here, boys.
Running a route.
We're just having fun.
The last thing I'm going to say is what helps a team out that has a talent deficit towards another team? A good quarterback. You get rid of that good quarterback, you're in a bigger deficit. So
sure.
That's why I think Cameron Rising, they're going to throw him out there. And hey, if they dial up blitzes, I'm pretty sure they're going to be prepared for that. So they're going to tell Cam Rising, hey, make sure you get these nice 5, 6, 3-yard chunks. They're going to try to blitz you every play. And then maybe you can sit back in coverage, maybe fake him out, maybe make him throw a pick 6, maybe make him throw an interception if he thinks you're going to bring the house every play. So I think that game plan at the beginning is going to be really, really interesting, considering who plays at quarterback. I mean, if you go and look at their backups right now, I just pulled up their roster. I mean, they got a redshirt freshman and a redshirt junior in Bryson Barnes, redshirt freshman in Brandon Rose, and then a redshirt freshman in Nate Johnson. So, I mean, you've got young kids behind Cameron Rising. So I would assume if they can, whatever they do to get him out there on that field, they're going to try.
Well, I will say this. I think that Rose is the most talented quarterback that they have on the roster. But the other piece of that, and kind of to your point, Soder, is that now this game is in Utah, and it's likely going to be a night game. So now what we're saying here is you've got to be able to trot your quarterback out and make sure that they can navigate a hostile environment as well. The last time around, not only did Cam Rising have to go against, basically making his first start, but he was making his first start in Florida when they're from Utah. We talked about this last year. It hurts.
Yeah.
But now we're also talking about, how can you do it against, a good defense, potentially a very aggressive defense. In Utah, that could change a little bit. There could be a little bit of a dynamic of, does Florida come out somewhat passive just to kind of feel the game out? Utah may not. And even if they do, now they can at least hear the calls.
Yeah,
your quarterback is making the right decisions because they can hear it out.
You don't want to come out and be overly aggressive and get blown and get burned either. Look, I'm just getting fired up just thinking about it. I swear to goodness, I just want to run through a fucking wall right now.
Let's just play some ball, baby.
My biggest fear is every third down, you bring the house blitz.
What's up, bro? We're having a good time, Dave.
And
We're fucking chilling, and you want to go there? Like, what's up, bro? Like, why you got to do that? Like, who does that to somebody? You know what I mean? Like, we're hanging out.
I'm pretty sure they game planned a lot of screens against this defense.
I'm done with you, Dave. Real quick, Double Dog, who's our coffee supplier, says 9-4. Write that down. Seminoles suck. I love that. And Tristan Creel says 12 months of membership. Hell yeah. Tristan says no, we don't, Harlan.
Okay.
They don't love Holly's. Okay, noted. All right, let's move.
Love this place.
Yeah, thanks for having me, guys. Moving on. We've got a couple FSU things to go over. I know. I hear the boos. Now, look, we got to know what the other side of the pond's doing. Like, this is what we do around here. Okay. I don't know what we should go to first. We can go to KJ Bolden. Hashtag Troy Bolton's greater than KJ Bolden. That's a High School Musical reference. You're welcome. This is another saga that's happening. It's like Charles Lester III all over again. It feels like you guys are in the drama squad this year. That's why I did the Troy Bolton, because it is very drama-like with the last few players that you had. Just visiting Auburn with Hugh Freeze, and Hugh Freeze seems to be on a little bit burner, which we're going to talk about a little bit later on. But KJ Bolden it felt like a Georgia lock. And now, with the confidence that's spewing out of FSU once again, I mean, you guys are awful at keeping it secret.
We're very good at keeping a secret.
No, you're awful at it.
There is no secret. Nobody knows what KJ is going to do here. Let's just point that part out. Nobody knows what KJ is going to do here. All right, look. He's got obviously a history with Georgia. He's a Georgia kid out from Buford, but he's said in multiple interviews that Florida State is his favorite school. It was his favorite school growing up. He's always dreamed of playing there. All of a sudden, it feels like Auburn kind of came out of nowhere. And I don't mean just with KJ Bolden. I mean they are literally snatching recruits.
Don't get ahead of ourselves.
Snatching recruits. So, look, the KJ Bolden thing, he's scheduled to commit here on Saturday. I want to say Saturday night, 8:30, if I'm not mistaken. We'll be live for it. Look, it's been a back and forth. It was almost just, a laydown that Georgia was going to get a kid from Buford because you just can't stop the Georgia train, except for FSU. FSU has punched Georgia in the mouth.
There it is.
A couple times now.
That's what I needed to hear. That's the cockiness I needed to see. You also know I know how KJ is an almost lock because Steve walks in and he goes, "Hey man, we shooting KJ on Saturday." If he didn't feel any slight confidence, he wouldn't be there. If he felt that there was an opportunity that he could look like a fool on the internet, he wouldn't be there. Trust me. So unfortunately, boys, it looks like the boys out in Tallahassee are doing some work, and I've got a conspiracy on it. I think it's On3's changing their name. If you guys heard, they're just past their 2-year celebration. They're changing their name to War Nation, which is combining War Chant and Dog Nation as one. Newberg leading the War Nation, spearing that part of it, and now obviously Chad Simmons, the Dog Nation, and they're coming together as one entity. So congrats to them on the the name change.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, really good stuff there. What were you gonna say, Dave? Sorry.
Yeah, I do have some advice for KJ Bolden though. I think he's better off at Auburn. I mean, that's just me.
I think Hugh Freeze is doing good things out there.
Amazing. It's almost like he's recreating what he did at Ole Miss.
What other school has two mascots? They've got a war eagle and a tiger. Like how do you not want to go there? Oh man, good stuff. Let's go to the next little bit here is FSU recruiting. So like I was kind of mocking this, but now it seems like you guys might be getting dialed in.
Oh boy.
There's an article by Keegan Pope. I don't remember what his nis.
Poop?
Let me see what's his name. Pope. That was close.
Close enough.
From On 3. I don't want to piss those guys off. He's thinking top 5 class for Florida State.
Okay.
Which look, I win because I made the bet for you guys anyway, so that's okay if that does happen. But his top 5 were Jeremiah Smith. He's very, very high on Jeremiah. I believe if he decommits from Ohio State, Florida's number 1. I'm not going to argue with you. Harlan will laugh about it. It is what it is. KJ Bolden was number 2. I was like, this guy's just over here just putting a wish list together. It's like me doing the calculator on a late Saturday night. You know what I mean? Like I could just plug and chug if I needed to too. Like
math, you say?
Yeah, this is all that it takes to do articles for On 3. Sign me up. Then he goes Josiah Trade. I'm like, wow, okay. So now I'm gonna go put Jarrett Gibson on there, Colin Simmons, who didn't even put us in his top 5, but I can just make my own little wish list.
Yeah.
LJ McCray, who's visiting between Florida and Georgia. That's just another person. You guys, I guess you're going after him too. I don't know. And then Jason Zandamela, who's committed also to USC.
Well, just for the record, okay, so Zandamela was an offensive lineman who committed to USC just a few weeks ago. At the same time that another kid, I'm going to master his name, Manassi Atelli, they both went on their visits. They committed to USC almost out of nowhere. Just this week, Manassi Atelli flipped from USC to FSU. Okay. So clearly, like the USC,
it's inevitable.
Clearly, the USC thing was an emotional decision. Now I can't guarantee Zandamela. I'm still putting some feelers out for that. But look, I mean, these two guys were very, very highly rated by FSU, and they were, from what FSU could tell, big leans for us. So now you see the Itelli flip, right? And now you're wondering, okay, now did these guys go out there? Maybe they just kind of caught up in the LA scene for a minute and said, this is amazing. And then you realize that not every chick looks like, one of the Kardashians. And so you're like, hold on, let me
Hey,
look,
I will confirm. If there's one thing that Tally is good at, it's talent. And I'm married, so let's not let her know I said that. But FSU is known for one thing: Tally got towel. Okay, you know what I'm saying? Tally got tail.
Look, I'm telling you right now. Look, if you want to have a good time in college, you go to Tallahassee. If you want to marry rich, you go to Florida.
Okay.
Because those girls are smart.
Yeah, that's true.
Not in Tally. I love Tally girls. I'm just saying.
But look, and the last one was Jamari Howard, who I do feel confident in you guys landing just because of how the situation has unfolded for Florida. And you were kind of mocking us, saying we didn't want him anymore. Look, I think the decision has gone other ways, but if the Wardell Mack noise is what it's supposed to be, and I'm not talking shit, I'm just being fact, Wardell Mack is rated higher. So it's like, all right, well, you can't have everybody. So if he's going to go somewhere, that's fine, right? At one point, Wardell Mack didn't feel like we had an opportunity. So I think that was why Howard was the priority. But Mack has seemed that the noise has really ramped up for him, and I think their priority has adjusted accordingly because of that. So, look,
Dave, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I don't think he's going to be rated higher though, because his upbringing rankings might go down from On 3. So,
well, he'll lose 45 pounds in 2 inches immediately, and that's just how it works.
Well, once he commits, they'll have like a whole new process. But
look, the one thing I will say about Mack is it is extremely difficult to get a kid out of Louisiana. Like LSU, Bama.
No, it's gonna be tough, but I think their priority is adjusted.
Right. No. So if the Jamari Howard steam with Florida cooled off a little bit, it's either one of two things, right? Either Jamari Howard just kind of started to go a different direction, or Florida felt that they were getting.
If we're able to land Mac, will you go? You right? We let him go, and not the other way around.
No, because you would.
No.
I'm sure you would love to have both. Why would you not?
Well, we have Mincy too. That's the other crystal ball.
You don't have him yet.
Well, that's the other one that we're going after, right?
Okay,
So
but you don't have him yet. So you're
you
just
know
going to give up on the
Okay, so
kid
if we get both, then you'll say you were right.
That I was right the whole time.
No, that I was right.
No, that I was right.
Right,
Yeah,
thank you.
that's what I
Thank
just
you.
said.
That's
That
what
I
you
was
said.
right.
I was right.
I was right.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, I just said that.
Go ahead, Dave.
That's right.
I was right.
Yeah, I was gonna say I heard a little birdie just like Coach Hayes. Jeremiah Smith is number one. His number one school is Florida State, number 100.
Where the f- where this come from?
This is the best show on television. I swear to goodness.
Where does this come from?
All right, last little bit here of FSU, and we're moving on. Nonsense today. Hashtag voted off the island. They're homeless. See what's going on, big guy.
May as well be. Look, FSU continues to engineer the absolute destruction of the ACC, and today's Board of Regents meetings didn't change that at all whatsoever. Florida State has basically all but said we will not be in the ACC, if not by 2023, 2024 year, by 2025 at the latest. There is a deadline for the ACC, for FSU to declare to the ACC whether or not they choose to be in that conference. That deadline is August 15th. Now, it's weird that the Board of Regents had a meeting today, just 13 days before that deadline. Now, I watched that meeting. I have never in my life watched a Board of Regents meeting ever. We went through multiple things about the College of Medicine and the nursing thing.
Steve, we don't need a recap of the bullshit.
It comes all the way down to the point of they went around the room. Each one of the Board of Regents specifically said that we are in favor of leaving the ACC. Not a single person questioned or said that they aren't sure if this is the right move. Now, you have to keep in mind, these aren't people. These people aren't all athletic related people. Like, some of them are deans, and they do things within the school that are outside of what you and I watch on TV on Saturday. But they're all in the understanding that in order to make FSU better, that leaving the ACC is in fact the best move. That's impressive. The president came out and said, and I'll quote, we of course are not satisfied with our situation. We love the ACC. We love our partners with the ESPN. Our goal would be to continue that relationship, but at this point, that does not seem feasible. This is the president of Florida State, who is not typically at these meetings. So as we get closer and closer and closer to this April 15th deadline, there could or not be an announcement. But the fact that FSU, for at least the last year to 2 years, has basically gone out there and been the spearhead of getting themselves out of this conference. Now, look, Clemson looks like they have started to follow. North Carolina looks like they have started to follow. Miami. There's other schools that have started to follow the lead. But at this point, I can look back at the leadership that FSU has had, whether it be the president, the athletic director, just the harmony between the two, even the head coach of the football program in the last 20 years. And I've never seen something where a school has gone and been so aggressive about just flat out telling the public, this is what we're doing. And the only reason I can imagine that we are doing that, and the reason that our messaging is so strong in that regard, is because we know there's a home. So whether it turns out to be the SEC, whether it turns out to be the Big Ten, if FSU is able to get themselves free of the ACC, it sounds like they are confident that there will be more than one bidder to get them where they want to be financially. So my question for you,
Steve.
Yep.
I feel like I was watching the damn board meeting again. Is you think this is the beginning of the end of the ACC?
This was the divorce conversation.
So, if you guys leave, it's just the writing on the wall that everyone else is going to leave. Mm-hmm. The Pac-12 is in shambles. And we talked about this when the noise started of realignment. When USC and UCLA kicked things off, the conversation of a Big 3 or a Big 2 started. Mm-hmm. The Pac-12, or the Big 12, is doing everything in their power to stay alive. And I think they're doing a good job of it. I don't think they're going to be able to keep up with the Big Ten, because it sounds like the Big Ten snatching Oregon and Utah, I believe, were the two names that I saw. Which if they also take FSU, which would be a lot more. Where does the SEC go after that? They're just being gobbled up by these conferences. And look, the Big Ten seems to be in favor of FSU, but also the Big Ten's not going to wait around for FSU. There's plenty of opportunities that in the Pac-12, all the teams in the Pac-12, it seems like their divorce is already over. They're just trying to find a new wife, where you're still trying to, find that separation. So FSU's trying to not get behind. I think they see the writing on the wall, and they don't want to be standing there at the bus stop 5 minutes late.
I agree. And look, there's a little bit more legalities for FSU to get out of the ACC, much more so than what the Pac-12 teams have to go through, which is why you see a Colorado leaving right away, which is why you see that there's a potential of an Oregon or a Washington that could just get out. The ACC has some legal hurdles that they have to overcome if they were to make a move to the Big Ten. And what's going to happen here is that the ESPN already owns the rights to FSU's media, right? When it comes to games, they already own that. So we would essentially, if we were to get out of the ACC, that would expose us to whether or not ESPN wants to leave us on the market. And if they do, the Big Ten won't be far behind with the contract. If they choose not to, then we can bypass the grant of rights because we're staying within an ESPN platform.
Interesting. Look, it's gonna be fun to watch. I'm ready for it to be done and over with, and for it to be settled. But I think it's gonna be longer than what it appeals. Real quick though, we got a few things we got to go over. We've got a new member here, Down South 332 just became a member. Shout out to Down South. We've got almost 400 people in here. Make sure you guys again show some love. Drop a like. Let's keep the likes going. Let's hit 200 likes. Tim says congrats on the sponsors. Thank you, Timmy. Good to see you, big dog. I thought there was one more thing I saw, but I may have missed it, where somebody said, "Hi, I love you," or something like that. I don't know. But hey, I appreciate you guys always commenting. Sometimes we're busy, so it's hard for me to see everything. But go ahead, Dave.
You got a secret admirer or what?
I don't know. I thought I saw something, but I may have missed it now. But again, I just want to make sure I appreciate you guys in here. Again, we're humping and bumping, which is incredible on a Wednesday night. Over 400 people, almost strong, and we're hour and 20 in, and we're 13 in. And we still have tweets of the week. And I got to say something, Dave. This, Dave. Hell of a job on tweets of the week, bro. It takes a lot for me to laugh out loud, bro. I was bent over my fucking chair reading your tweet, going over the tweets of the week, bro. I was like, yo, these are bangers. And I'm not gaslighting it. They were good. Like they're good. Every one of them slaps.
It was a good Twitter week.
Every one of them slaps. So we've got that coming up. But before we get into that, I've got to take a jab at Auburn for just a quick second.
Ooh.
So, look, there's a couple. We've got to unfold this here. My question is Auburn the new A&M or Miami 2.0? Because they're coming out of nowhere, like Auburn and A&M did. Now, they're a little bit sooner than Miami and A&M. It's not weird that Auburn is recruiting like – it is weird. But not in a sense from money, because when we talked about who was going to take the Auburn job, Lane Kiffin was brought up a lot. And the question was, well, why is Lane Kiffin a question that he could go to Auburn? Because he's already at Ole Miss, he's already at SEC school. Why would he just essentially lateral over? It was always the money. It's the alumni that backs Auburn is absolutely massive. So the things that he could do if he were to go to Auburn are much greater than what he's able to do currently at Ole Miss. Now, my question is, why couldn't the previous coaches, recruit in this manner, do those things? I don't know. And that's where my starting to raise some red flags, because Hugh Freeze obviously lost his job due to some questionable circumstances before his job here at Auburn and Liberty. And I'm not claiming anything. I think, look, I love that Auburn is getting back on track with things, but they've stole one from Bama, stole one from Georgia, possibly stealing another one from Georgia, all 5 stars, which feels very A&M like, not as Miami like. It's Miami in a certain extent, but more so A&M, because they are taken from the big dogs. Miami was picking up the pieces. They weren't stealing people from Bama and whatnot. Hugh Freeze is going for throats, and they haven't had a top 20 class since I don't remember. And that was part of what I've also talked about too, is like why the hype for Auburn this year is a huge question mark, in my opinion, because you want to talk about talent on a roster. Where is it coming from? They've done well on the portal, but not that well to where it's like the hype has just, Hugh's a great coach, but I mean, how good is he, right? Like, where is it coming from? And now they're at, I think 14th or 13th ranked class with 15 commits, very healthy class, and could very well finish in a top 10 class the first time in probably a decade. I might be off on that. I might be shooting from the hip there, but it just seems a little.
Yeah, I think you're right.
Yeah, it seems a little like what's going on. I got questions, right? We always got questions when this stuff's going on, and like I don't mind it. I think some of it makes sense, but Hugh has a bad track record. The guy gets settled in, and all of a sudden just starts shooting off. Like, I don't. Dave.
Yeah. If Auburn would have got Lane Whiffen, they would be in the same exact predicament they were in half a decade or 15 years or whatever they've been.
Lane's too busy hanging out with his girlfriend to recruit.
Yeah. Yeah. You look out. That is true.
Yeah.
You that made me chuckle. Sorry. You look at what Hugh Freeze did at Ole Miss. Obviously, he gets caught with that whole scandal there, and then obviously has to go to Liberty. Comes back, goes to Auburn. After Harsin gets fired, and then NIL, all this other kind of stuff, and then all of a sudden you're seeing a couple 5 stars getting flipped. And I guarantee you, Hugh Freeze probably looked around college football and was like, man, there sure are a lot of teams getting caught with a bunch of bad violations, and they're getting slaps on the wrist. Bring back the strippers, baby. That's what he said.
Bring them in. They're over there. Yep, those are over there. Yep, those are coming with me.
I've still got some eligibility. Hugh, hit me up.
Look, I just read the comment too legit. Go ahead.
I was gonna say he's doing a good job. I mean, obviously he's flipping 5 stars from like Alabama, Georgia. I mean, all that. I mean, like that. It's crazy, but it does make you think. Like, well, he was this successful at Ole Miss, and then he got in trouble. So how's he so successful already at Auburn when they haven't done anything and they've already flipped a couple 5 stars? It just makes you think a little bit.
Look, I'll let you go in a minute, Steve. I don't want to seem like a hater, because that's obviously the category that I'm putting myself in currently. Because when Florida was doing well, it was the same thing. And anytime you see a jump like this, you always scratch your head and like, what's changed? And to legit say, look, I think the alumni believe in Hugh, and I can agree with that. So I think the money was always there. Maybe just the belief in the head coach hadn't been there. And I feel like every coach at Auburn, the last guy had a scandal too, didn't he? With the recruiting chick. Yeah, because I saw a tweet. It was like, they brought this chick back. That was another thing there. But look, I don't mind Auburn being well. I think it's good for football. It's like just like Florida State's in Florida is good for football. Auburn beating up on Alabama, the Iron Bowl, it's good for football. When Cam was there and they had their stretch of a good run, it's fun to watch. So I'm not trying to be a complete hater, but I got questions. I got questions. You know what I mean? Steve, what's your thoughts?
Well, look, so the one thing I will say about Auburn is when they have a head coach that their alumni and the money that goes to Auburn, and trust me, oddly, there is a ton of money in Auburn.
It's almost like Texas
bizarre.
money. It's weird, yeah.
It's banking money is what it is.
Yeah, it's a lot. Yeah. It's there's a lot more than I think that is let on.
Right.
Yeah.
But what happens is when they're so like, it's psychotic about it. Like if they have a head coach that the boosters don't like, Bobby Louder, if they don't like the coach, they'll just starve him. They'll starve him out. It was like basically what they did to Tuberville, like Tommy Tuberville, if anybody remembers that. What'll happen here is that if the boosters and the money like the coach and they think that the guy can spend the money well, get the recruits that they want, and win the football games, they will love that person and they will give that person all the money that they need. If they get somebody who like Tuberville, who just kind of burns himself out with the boosters, or like the last coach that kind of felt like he went from being in a good place with them to a, like, you know, basically being walked out the door, I would say, you know, to the airport in Auburn, but I don't know if there is one. But that being said, it's just a very, very, very strong dynamic of if your booster base isn't 100% on board with your head coach, they will just literally cut you off from a dime.
Yeah, and I think, I mean, Auburn's proven that, and that was my thoughts with Dion not getting the job. I didn't think they would give Dion an opportunity. But look, I think the hype for Auburn and them being successful this year probably helped, because it felt like right after SEC Media Day, the hype for Auburn cranked up a little bit, and the money cranked up a little bit as well, too. There's definitely a correlation. And look, I genuinely think that it's not anything scandalous going on yet. I think, like you said, it's the boosters are believing in the coach that they went out and got. And Hugh Freeze has proven to be a winner in the SEC and proven to be Bama, and they want to give him as many tools and opportunities to get that done. I think getting Kirkland from Michigan State was a huge nod to this guy knows what he's doing. That's a huge pickup. I mean, that's a massive pickup, probably tampered with it, but huge pickup for you to go and pick that up. I wouldn't be surprised if they were the school that offered Tagovailoa from Maryland, the $1.5 million. If that, right? I mean, yeah. I'm not trying to slander anybody like Tua did or Tulisa, but here we go. But guys, we got over 300 people in here on an hour and a half in on a Wednesday, and I'm speechless. It's always a pleasure and always a humbling to come on this and have such a great outturn and have over 200 likes. If we fix the Discord in the Discord link in the description, please, we'll do right after the show. I don't know why it expires every so often, but I'll get it fixed. That's my B. And last but definitely not least, it's probably the best that it's been ever. Like I just mentioned, it's Tweets of the Week.
Let's go.
Brought to you by David Swoder, baby. I even organized them and how I wanted to release them, by the way. They're all good though. My personal favorites. Okay. Thank you for the dislike. That's the wrong direction, but we'll take it. All news is good news, right? First order of business. I don't know how to unwrap these. Like they're just so good. I don't want to ruin it. I
feel like you owe Chris the $5 back because you just didn't fix the Discord link and he wanted your attention.
What? Did he just have a stroke? What did he say? I'm gonna fix it. I can't fix it right now. I'm in the middle of a show.
No, I'm kidding.
Okay. All right. First order of business is this breaking news came out with John Ruiz and the whole company basically failing. It's rumored that Ruiz played a big part in the securing of many of the Canes' top prospects from last cycle through NIL. There's a whole investigation going on. If you guys don't know, everyone's aware of it. What's important about this tweet/Instagram post, this is a little gray area here, Dave, is that Jeremiah Smith liked the post of basically Ruiz getting dragged, which is a very subtle trope, which is Smith has been known to be very good at that. So it's incredible. You love to see recruits get involved and take the jabs. I'm always down for it.
Yeah.
And that's the first one.
Isn't Jeremiah?
We're just getting warmed
Didn't
up.
Jeremiah
Didn't
he retweet something from Miami?
Yeah,
that was like, I ain't coming.
Players were talking shit.
Yeah, and they was like, don't worry, I ain't coming back anyway.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Same guy.
Making sure.
Same kid. I love it. All right, next,
Mr. Oh, go ahead.
Go ahead.
I'm sorry, I'm lagging a little bit behind because this connection sucks. But Ruiz is in some big FBI trouble.
Steve and I are fine. It's your fault. This one's really good. This one's really well orchestrated. On3 tweeted out, South Carolina quarterback Spencer Rattler just picked up his new G-Wagon. It's a photo of Spencer getting into his G-Wagon. And the Twitter handle Transfer Portal says, probably a bad idea to get such a top-heavy vehicle when you're already prone to turnovers. Like, just well done. You know what I mean? Just well done.
I don't know this account, but I looked at this guy's Twitter, and he posts a lot of funny stuff. So I started following him and stuff.
Yeah, I mean, just well done.
So I mean, that's a classy, just
subtle jab.
Little,
look, what are you gonna say to that?
Like, you got me.
Yeah,
you got it.
Right.
You got me.
You're right. That was good.
That's really good.
All right, we get into the good stuff here.
Oh,
all right,
boy.
These next two are really good. So Dave nominated himself, which I'm upset because I've had pretty good tweets and I've never been nominated for the show. But it is what it is. I'll take it up with him after this. Dave, when I saw this tweet, I was like, this better be a tweet of the week because it's phenomenal. This is really, really good, Dave. Like, kudos. Dave is a troll. When you guys go, Dave's like, I don't know why everyone's mad at me. This is exactly why people are mad at Dave.
I just report the news.
Let me read this here.
Yeah, I just report the news.
So Kirby's Mart tweeted, there goes High Top Dave. I do want to say this really quick. Shout out for being named High Top Dave. I mean, I think we fucking made it if we're over here just they didn't tag you. They spelt it out, High Top Dave. So I mean, for that alone. I mean, that's, you know what I mean? Hey, Dave. Got that dog. I'm here for it. You know what I'm saying? So he goes, give Dave his flowers. He goes, there goes High Top Dave again, getting his rocks off on UGA player speeding. And Dave hit him with the fucking zinger. He goes, oh please, give it a rest. And arrest is spelled like I got arrested. Bro, phenomenal.
Oh, man.
Phenomenal. I mean, poetic justice at its finest.
This dude's literally like, I think he has like a eye after me. Every time I tweet about Georgia, he's like right there. And he has like an avatar photo. He'll never show his real face, but he's always all over my he's always all over my shit, man. This was incredible. It was a hell of a response.
Well done.
I mean, I saw it and I go, that was good. That was good. And this one's my favorite. This is the one that made me just bent over and cry. It was just, it cheesed me out, bro. And anytime you get a shot.
That was me.
What?
Go ahead.
Bend over. Anytime I mean you take a shot at Miami, I'm always here for it. So Barstool Miami tweeted, if we end up leaving the ACC and ends up falling apart, how will you remember our time here? And somebody tweeted out an empty trophy case.
All Canes conference, baby.
Oh my goodness. I mean, phenomenal. Phenomenal. Bro, how will you remember our time here? An empty trophy
golly.
case. Bro,
you just take a picture of a plane ticket to Charlotte that they never were able to use.
Incredible, dude. Dude, it had me cheesing, bro. Like Barstool Miami just punching air. Just punching air.
I mean, dude, like I don't know how many guys run some of these sites. Like Barstool Miami, how many guys are responsible for what they're posting? You gotta think that if the one guy that put that out there, the other three were like, no, that was not the right idea.
I would love to know what runs those accounts, like all the Barstool Sport pages. It's got to just be a bunch of just bros. There's no way it's more than like 3 people.
That's what I mean.
Like it's not like it's just Twitter accounts. I always try to get into a pissing contest with them, but none of them take the bait.
Yeah, who was on shift? Who was on shift when this went out?
I think
like you're suspended.
I think the people that run the Barstool accounts, like the university ones, are like the kids that actually attend the university. So it's younger kids that are running.
Yeah, it's like interns.
From what I know.
That's what it feels like. And they never take the bait. Barstool Colorado, they've really taken advantage of the hype that they've gotten.
Woof.
But they've also pissed off people because they clearly don't know what's going. Like you could tell the Barstool accounts, they're not in tune with shit.
Right.
You know
they're almost talking a different language. Like
like they're trying to fit in. It's like we're all sitting around at the table hanging out, chit chatting, and they're just like they're getting it secondhand. Like, oh my god, that one time.
I love that guy.
And then you just look at him, and like, we weren't even talking about that, bro.
Dude, give that guy
Chill
some
out,
macaroni.
Like you're not welcomed here. Even Barstool Florida, like I got no beef with them, but sometimes they tweet shit. And it's like, bro,
yeah, I know. I've
where you at with this?
I've definitely had my issues with Barstool FSU. Like,
yeah,
that ain't it.
It's just
that ain't it, bro.
Yeah. I'm taking jabs here, but I'm sorry, but
in West, I see you, by the way. Yes, Miami does have more national championships than Florida State. They also have more national championships than Florida, which is why Wes should be running the Barstool Florida thing.
Bro, talk about the backlash that we got from our clip where I said that UCF was the big 3. Bro, like I
mean, I made a joke, my dude.
Like we were,
I mean,
like
they
I
were
get talking
mad,
shit,
man.
bro, but like,
Dude, that was,
bro,
that was
like
so funny.
Coach Hayes responded how you should, just with the 5 rings, and then you move on, right? Phenomenal response to. I don't know. Hopefully he's not pissed at us. Hopefully he brings us back on the show, but The other people, bro, like it felt like burner accounts. Like I felt like it was just a bunch of John Ruiz accounts, but it's like, bro, like y'all went personal quick as fuck. Like we
made a
Miami
joke.
Like we know we're ugly. Like nobody, you know what I mean? Like this isn't a beauty contest.
The Miami fans get so pissed off, man. They're like the easiest fan base to piss off on the internet. Like it's hilarious. Like
it wasn't even
they
fun.
Called me every name in the book. They've posted my pictures. They've done all. It's hilarious, dude. I just love pushing their buttons. It's funny.
It wasn't even fun. I'm like, bro, the one guy said like he called me a slut, I think, and then cum guzzler. Like it was just like, whoa, like
yeah. I mean,
I
had one guy go after my.
I mean, it is pretty
my
gray.
glorious beard.
It is pretty gray.
Well, I'm also old.
And they yelled at us for having backward hats. I didn't realize that was a thing. The guy was wearing a fedora while he was yelling at me. I'm like, this is strange. I'm not.
You have a front and backwards hat,
yeah,
sir.
I don't know what
goes all the way around.
I don't know what's going on here, but it was very strange that we got.
Yeah, that was a spice. We struck a nerve on that.
We hit something deep, and like I did with your mom last night. But I don't know. I thought we were just trying to have some fun, talk football. We just report the news, but we pissed a lot of people off, and I'm not mad about it. But I will say, hell of a show on a Wednesday night, boys. Great time, an hour and a half in, a nice, thick, juicy, like your mom, show here this afternoon. And I think sometimes you guys, get upset with the mom jokes. I think they're used to it at this point. But mom jokes are here, okay? They've never left. And anytime like a troll comes onto the page, I just respond with your mom. It's a classic response.
It's it.
Yeah, and sometimes people do a good response, bringing it back. But you got to understand,
dude, the
mom jokes are never going to die.
The mom jokes have been around since look. The majority of the people who watch this show are guys, right? And one of the first jokes, let's just be honest with ourselves. Let's have some intellectual honesty with one another here. One of the first jokes that you knew how to tell was a your mom joke. So don't act like just because we're all older and we pretend to be, professionals.
Mom jokes
are still a thing.
Yeah, mom jokes are king.
It's just a mom joke.
So that's our message for you guys. Our message of the week is implement more mom jokes throughout especially at work. I think it'll go really well at HR.
I got to give a shout out to all the prisons around like the United States for like allowing Wi-Fi in the prisons. That way John Ruiz can watch our show while he's sitting in there.
See, I thought he was going with a mom joke there. I thought there was a Wi-Fi mom joke. I was waiting for it.
You won, and then Dave goes, I don't know why people are pissed off at me, bro. Like,
I can't understand. Why am I blocked by so many people on the internet?
Bro, you're over just throwing haymakers, bro.
I just report the news.
That man has a family, bro.
He probably has a mom.
He ain't going to be seeing him anytime soon.
He doubled down.
I mean, I think
we gotta shut this off.
I guess technically that's a mom joke.
We're past. We've gone too far. This is unreal. I can't believe this. Well, guys, football's here. We've got Thursday night football.
Oh boy.
Taste One Boiled Peanut Co. I was like, why does he keep putting peanuts at the end of everything? But I see his name is Taste One Boiled Peanut Company. Hey, hell of a marketing job.
All right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Taste One. I like that. Taste one peanut. Taste one boiled peanut.
Oh, Holly loves nuts in his mouth.
I mean,
bro, Dave.
We got this man off on a rip, and now he's just firing things off. I mean,
it's double dog coffee. I'm telling you.
This is how we're gonna end things, Dave.
Oh my God.
This is how things end.
Bro, Dave came on the show talking about how he was happy.
He said he was in a great mood.
Yeah, he said he was hanging out with the wife last night because
got
that dog.
Yeah, had a little extra attention from the wife maybe the night before. This is how he's ending things. It's been too
Here's
long.
How we're gonna end it. It's Kenneth Charlotte's birthday today. Kenneth, happy birthday, my dude. I'm glad I saw this. I hope. Go ahead.
I said happy birthday. That's it.
Happy birthday, my man.
I'm
glad that we could. You're spending your birthday with us. That means a lot to us. But you guys, hell of a fucking show as always. You guys are incredible. I love you guys. Be sure to drop a like, subscribe, turn the bell on. We're going live all the damn time. Just because it's football season, boys. We've made it. We're here. Swamp Kings is coming out. We're going to try to do something special for that, so stay tuned for that. Let me know if you have any ideas for it as well. Fantasy football is among us. If you want to join, become a member. Probably going to be dropping that here in the next few days. $25 if you want to play. So 10 spots open. Let me know if you want in.
KJ Bolden coming up, baby. That's
KJ Bolden on Saturday. Tune in for that. NFL show on Sunday. But until next time, I am Sheldon.
And I'm Ollie.
And I just report the news.
Oh my goodness. Good night, boys. Be good. Love you. Stay frosty. God bless. Boogity boogity.